The subject of my presentation is Lut Desert of Iran and its diatom. I would like to first introduce my colleagues and the group that helped me for this project, my American colleagues and my dear instructors, Market Luns, Sarah Spalding, and my Iranian colleagues, Bahman Izadi and Jafar Saburi, and the Turkish colleague, Cüneyt Nader Solak, and the Polish colleague, Lukas Pezek. So the outline of my talk includes the desert habitats and the extremophiles. The Lut Desert, as I introduce it, and it is named the hottest place on Earth. The hydrology of the Lut Deserts, the diatoms of the Lut Deserts and the different types of it. And at last, I will give a notice about the Lut Desert compared with other deserts. So for the desert habitats, as you may all know, deserts occupy 1/3 of the land surface in the world. And they are the matter of interest for a variety of scientists such as conservationists, ecologists, meteorologists, geologists, and evolutionary biologists. As you may know, our planet is experiencing a very bad issues of loss of biodiversity, climate change, and the formation of transformation of lands to the desert, that is called desertification. So all the desert habitats share common characteristics. In these characters: aridity, long drought throughout the year, absence of water vapor, extremes of temperature. Two types of deserts are categorized in this group: very low temperature that are grouped in cold deserts, and very high temperature that are called hot deserts. Scarcity of water, solar radiation intense, precipitation deficiency, high wind velocity, uneven topography, loose sandy soil, devoid of organic carbon, nitrogen, and moisture. Very scarce vegetation, extremely short annual season of plant growth, and the presence of extreme organisms, extremophiles, and their adaptation to this hostile ecosystem. So the desertification is the process that makes the fertile land arid and barren lands. And it includes the reduction in productivity, alternation in the density of life form, reduction in biomass, acceleration in soil degradation. And there are two types of causes for that: natural causes and human causes. So for the natural causes, we are experiencing, and this is nowadays global warming, and then low and erratic rainfall, low humidity, high summer temperature, intense evapotranspiration, and other groups include geomorphological settings that include soil erosion and weathering, and high frequency of summer dust form. And the most important cause that is called anthropogenic effects or human causes, which includes irrigate agriculture in lands without adequate drainage, urbanization and industrialization, mining, overgrazing, deforestation, decrease in groundwater table, and water resource degradation. So what are the biggest and driest hot deserts in the world? As you may know, and I have listed them from the highest area to the lowest. And the biggest one is Sahara Desert in South Africa, then Australian Desert, Arabian Desert, which includes the areas of Jordan, Syria, and Israel, Turkestan Desert, which two famous one is Kızılkum and Karakum, North American deserts, which including three Mojave Desert, Sonoran Desert, and Chihuahuan Desert. Patagonian Desert in South America, Thar Desert in Indian part of Pakistan, Kalahari and Namib Desert in South Africa, Taklamakan in China, Gobi Desert in Mongolia, and we have Iranian deserts that two important of them are Dasht Kavir and Dasht Lut or Lut Desert. And the last one, Atajama Desert in China. So you see the map of Iran here with the surrounding countries. As you see, Iran is a vast country and has two major landscapes. It contains mountainous areas in the south, in the north, and we have Alborz ranges, and in the west we have Zagros ranges, and the middle part of Iran, and it can be said 2/3 of Iran is included in semi-arid area to arid area and desert environment. Dasht Kavir and Dasht Lut. Dasht in Persian means desert. So as you see, the Aqua Madis satellite recorded Iran's desert, or better to say Lut Desert, as the hottest point on the world in 7 continuous years from 2003 to 2009, with the except of 2003, that Queensland in Australia was the hottest point with the land surface temperature of 69.3 degrees centigrade. And 2008, Turpan Basin in the Taklamakan Desert of China with the LSD of 66.8 degrees centigrade. But improvement in satellites gave us another amount. That is, in 2018, it was recorded that the Lut Desert's LSD was 80.83 degrees. It means 10 degrees centigrade hotter than the maximum measured degree. With a look to Iran's map, we can see Lut Desert in the middle part of Iran. It is a depression with the area of 80,000 square kilometers, and it is surrounded with different groups of mountains. In the west, Kerman Mountains. In the east, Sistan Mountains, and at south, Bam and Basman Mountains, and at north, south, Khorasan Mountains, or Birjand Mountains. The geomorphology of Lut Desert shows that it is not an even land. It is a very uneven, big area with two different topographic heterogeneity. As I mentioned, Lut Desert is surrounded with different groups of mountains. So we have the foothills and we have the plain inside the Lut or the central Lut. But even these parts are not homogeneous. So we have different depressions, and the lowest one is here in the central Lut with the elevation of 187 ASL. So another uniqueness of Lut Desert is that it has a variety of landforms that makes it distinctive from other deserts of the world. In other deserts of the world, you may find one or two landforms, but I will give a brief introduction to each form. There is a plateau called Gandombarian. It is made of stony black rocks on the basaltic area that for long ago it was considered the hottest point of the Lut, but then after other studies showed that central depression in the Lut is the hottest point. And you will see the calottes, or it is also called mega yardans, that are the landforms that are the landforms made by winds, let's say Aeolian regions, with that has the highest highest ones in Iran and in the Lut Desert with the height of 150 meters. And sorry, I think I've missed one slide. The other one are the sand dune, the hills that are made by sand. Calutax are the small forms of calottes. Nepkas are called desert pots. It means that there are some parts of the desert that are covered with vegetation, such like tamarix, and there the groundwater is in a higher level. So the one that is in Lut is the highest in the world. It's with the 15 meters high. And Hamada, it is the stony, rocky pavement. The ergs that are the wind-swept flat area in the desert, and the ripple marks. Ripple marks are the marks that are made by swift wind. So we have here the hydrology map of the Lut Desert. With a glance to this map, you may think that this is a very vast network of waters, but it is not true, because the streams that you see here are the seasonal streams flowing in a very short time of the year, especially the ones that flow from the east and the ones that flow from the south. The only perennial river that is flowing, and this is also the mystery in the Lut, is the Shur River, that is flowing from the north east of the Lut to the central Lut depression. And we have some short streams, or let's say perennial streams that they don't enter the central part. They just stop flowing to the edge of the western part of the Lut. I put a shape here about the formation of the Lut Desert during the evolution. The geological evidences indicates that in the past there was a shallow lake in the central part of the Iran, and it was periodically affected by evaporation and rain conditions. So the existence of layers of chalk and salt in the callus, and you see this part is the callus in the central part of the Lut, confirms this opinion. Now, at present, we have two depressions in the Lut. One is in the central depression and one is in south of the Lut, called Shure Gas Hamun. Both have shallow groundwater that may link us to the evolution formation of Lut. So the only work that has been done in Lut is done by Comperé. Comperé was the Belgian algalogist, and he received his colleague and friend Leonard's collections when Leonard visited Iran's Lut, Iran and the Lut Desert in 1972. He gave the samples to Comperé, and he could publish his findings in 1981. But the parts, or let's say some sites that he has collected are mostly in the borders of the Lut. There is just one sample in the central part of the Lut, in the south of Gandum Bergan. So there are three groups of diatoms that are found in his samples that I'm going to introduce. A group are brackish marine species that were abundant, and I have put their images here from Comperé: Amphora, Inocystriata, Nitzschia, Aurelia, Tribunella, Apiculata, Halamphora cophiformis, Masticuloia pomila, Masticuloia aquilegia, Nitzschia hochstedtiana, Achnanthus adnata, and Surdirella caspia. And he found some freshwater marine species that were rare, and these images belong to this group: Cimbella, Hochstedti, variety stigmata, Navicula upsaliensis, Nitzschia microcephala, Nitzschia perminota, Nitzschia desertorum, and Cynedra minuscula. But he found a list of diatoms as freshwater diatom from the southernmost part of Lut, where the soil is less salty and it is most fertile than the middle part. So Cynedra fasciculata, ulnaria, ulna, diatoma vulgaris, Navicula cryptocephala, Navicula tripunctata, Coccinis pediculus, Cimbella helvetica, Craticola cuspidata, Gomphonema parvalum, and Celophora pupula. There were representative of some freshwater species that he found, and I will continue with our studied area. So we chose the central part of the Lut, especially because it is the lowest and driest part of the Lut. It is devoid of vegetation, and in past it was told that it is devoid of life, but new findings show that there are some animal life like desert fox, lizard, insects, but most of them appear at night when to avoid the extreme sunshine and temperature. So with the samples we took were the south of Gandumbarian, as I told you that it is a basaltic area and once was called the hottest spot in the central Lut. Then two streams in sample 2 and sample 3 and downstream of Shu River. This number 1 is upstream and this one downstream of Shu River. It is close to the central depression. That is the lowest part of the central Lut and the most saltiest part. And number 5, very interesting, another stream. Oh, and sorry, I just want to correct that. Number 3 was from the salty pond that was made by the excavation when constructing the road from Shahda to Nehbandan, and it contains the shallow groundwater, and it is the most saltiest sample we had. And these are the images: Shu River upstream, Shu River downstream, the stream Kalilut, and the other stream, and this is that pond along the road. What we found in our samples, we found very few diatoms of cosmopolitan freshwater diatom that were similar with Comperé's work: Cochnis, Pediculus, Achnanthes, Adnatam, Mastagloia, Aquilegia, and Hansia amphioxis. We found one abundant brackish diatom, Seminavis bustanfeldi, that was also very common in our sample. And we found some new species, and we described the new genus, and we called it Lutiphila. And this new genus is characterized by bilateral symmetry, hymenate areola externally, 2 rows of areola, 1 on the valve face and 1 on the mantle, and the internal occlusion of the areola that is auriculate. I have the image in other slides because we described 2 species from this genus and named them Lutiphila iranica. You will see the internal valve here with auriculate hymenation. Lutiphila thermotolerance. And there are a lot of species that we haven't found any names that will be similar according to the database. So we say that they are unknown species that we want to, after working on them, we will describe them. Two species of Nitschia, 1 species of Rhopalodia, different species of Proschkinia, 1 species of, 2 species of Navicula, and different species of Palamphora. But we come to this point that deserts are extreme environments where life is limited by the amount of water and temperature. Yet life persists in rivers, areas where groundwater is near the surface and in evaporate ponds. The Lut Desert contains diatom species and other forms of life that have not been discovered elsewhere. The diatom flora of the Lut Desert is difficult to compare to that of the other hot deserts because the studies of diatoms in arid deserts are scarce, likely because microhabitats are isolated and unique chemical composition. Our work indicates that the Lut Desert differs from other deserts due to its peculiar diatom. And the other important issue that desertification. Desertification is a worldwide issue which is amplified by climatic change. So the Aral Sea is gone. The Lake Urmia is nearly dry, and the Great Salt Lake is on a similar trajectory. I hope you have enjoyed my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Maya, thank you very much. It's really great to see where things have gone since we sat in the Lakeside Lab together, you know, over 10 years ago and began learning about diatoms together. There's a couple quick questions in the chat, and then we'll move on to some more if other people have questions to ask Somayyeh. First, Anna would like to know, when will Lutiphila be published?
We hope very soon. We have submitted it to the journal.
Great. So it's being reviewed right now. So that's good.
Yes.
And then Matt wanted to ask if the Prushkinia is heteropolar.
Okay. If it is heteropolar or isopolar, the question is this?
Yes.
It is isopolar.
Okay. Isopolar? Okay. And I was curious, you know, from the perspective of people thinking this area was devoid of life, has the richness of diatoms that you have found, has it brought greater interest into the area? And you know, it doesn't seem like there's much development, but just protecting the area and maintaining the biodiversity, is there any interest from the government or other groups to preserve this biodiversity?
It is introduced as a World Heritage. There are some plans for its conservation, but and some scientists started working on other animal life, and they discovered some species from the ponds, and they emphasized the importance of this hostile conservation. I mean, the conservation of this Lut Desert, but I hope we can keep it. But there are some threats for it, like off-roading, unfortunately. I hope we can keep this environment as as we have just started knowing about its unique flora and fauna, and there are a lot to know about this ecosystem, and it is a very valuable ecosystem, and it has a shallow groundwater that is unique in the world. So it is the source for its biota, source of life for biota. So we should keep its conservation, and conserve it.
Well, thank you. And Mark asked almost the same question. So Mark, you got to be faster, raise your hand, or otherwise I'm going to beat you to it. Mark also wants to know, can you tell us about the water chemistry and the physical conditions where the diatoms were found, the water temperature or nutrients or conductivity?
Yes, it exceeds the limits of the saline environment. It is very hypersaline. So the temperature we measured was about 25 degrees Celsius in water, but for air it was about in summer it was about 70 degrees Celsius.
Wow. And to follow up on that, Mark wants to know what time of the year you go collecting there. And I guess I also do you go collecting at night to escape
Okay, yeah. I myself collected there are some different samples. The ones that were collected in summer was done by our colleague Bahmani Zadi, who is the Lut explorer, and he visits Lut Desert very often. So he told me about the temperature at the time of sampling in summer, but I myself visited Lut in autumn. The air temperature was about 35 or so at that time, and it was not that much high, but I still felt very hot because it is desert and the sunshine is very direct and you feel very warm. But because of and Bahmani Zadi is a specialist for Lut, he knows how to collect the samples and at what time of the year, or let's say what time of the day, maybe early in the morning. I have not asked about that from him.
Sure. Yeah, it seems like a very, very not only is it remote, but it's a a harsh environment to work in. Sarah has provided with a link to a supporting publication on the hydrogeochemistry of the shallow groundwater from the Lut Desert, the hottest place on Earth. And Somayyeh, I was kind of thinking about maybe a future direction of research. I not myself, but I know a lot of researchers are putting effort into looking at how the frustule can channel or amplify light to the chloroplasts, and being in a place with such direct irradiance, and there's no shade. They're very shallow systems, so these diatoms are getting a lot of very direct sunlight, and I have to wonder if they would be great to include in comparing when people study how the frustule light interaction feeds to the chloroplast. It'd be maybe a great direction to go with things.
Yes.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Somayyeh?
Can I ask you another question, David?
Absolutely, Mark.
Okay, cool.
You don't need my permission.
Somayyeh, looking at your pictures of these habitats, I mean, they look really harsh. Are there any other like invertebrates or anything living in these water bodies that?
Yes. There was an article published in 2020, I think, that was yes, exactly a group of Daphne.
Really?
What we call it, shrimp, a little shrimp,
Oh,
a group
shrimp.
of
Okay.
little shrimp. Sorry, yeah,
Okay.
shrimp. That is was similar to Urmia Lake's shrimp. That's famous Artemia. Yeah, Artemia. That is similar to this group, I think. But I'm not a specialist in invertebrate. Yeah, I know that when the yes, if you look at this, the first page of the presentation here, a lake was formed after a heavy precipitation throughout Iran in the Lut Desert. And at that time, some scientists collected samples and saw that there is a shrimp, and they described it as a new species. But now this lake isn't existing. It was just the time of the year, and that year that Iran was with a very high and heavy rainfall and precipitation, and flooding happened in different parts of Iran. So the Lut Desert, the Shur River was flooded, and it made this lake close to the Caluts in the central depression, where is the lowest depression in the Lut, and the rainfall can accumulate there and make a lake.
It's interesting to think that there would even be like a food web associated with these incredibly harsh conditions in the water. So thank you, Somayyeh.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just following up on thoughts from that, Mark and Somayyeh, you know, I'm wondering with maybe the periodicity of weather events, you know, how many of these both invertebrates and, you know, diatoms have sort of you know, resting stages, or, you know, to cope with the fluctuations, like, oh, it rained for the first time in 10 years, we can live, you know.
Exactly. This is what happened in Lake Urmia. Lake Urmia got dried and watery continuously in the recent years before getting totally dried. So at that year that I mentioned that the rainfall was very heavy, Urmia Lake got watery, and the Artemia that has gone appeared again. So they figured out that, as you say, resting spores are there. They just seek for an opportunity to grow.
Very cool. Yeah, one of my favorite life strategies. Sarah notes that in one of the driest places in North America, in Death Valley, there was flooding this year. So, you know, these very dry areas can you know, experience these weather events. Layla would like to ask you if you know of any hydrothermal or cold springs in the Lut Desert. She says some of the Nitzias and Halamphoras resemble taxa that she finds in southern Tunisia from hot springs.
Cold springs? No, I don't think so. The Lut Desert is always hot at springs. So that's why I have heard that many tourists just can go to visit Lut in early spring or in late late autumn or in winter, never for the middle of the spring. But it can be a similar species, because as I studied the some of these Halamphora species, they resemble to we named them CF subsalina and some others. So there may be some resemblance between the species, but we should compare the characteristics with SEM to conclude that if they are similar, they are the same species.
Thank you very much, Somayyeh. Well, if anybody else has any more diatom questions, now is your chance. Until January 23rd, we're going to take a break with the Diatom Web Academy. So if anybody else has any other questions for Somayyeh, or you have any other diatom news to share before the winter break, now's your chance.
David, there's been a couple more in the chat.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, it's not scrolling.
Oh,
yeah. Well, go ahead and ask yours, Mark. You're
okay. Here, I can turn on my camera and wave at you too. Somayyeh, did you notice any resting structures you're talking about with the Artemia, that they're coming back when you have water in these systems. But did you notice among your diatom collections any resting spores or rest or internal valve structure that might be help these things survive these crazy swings in salinity in these areas? I think of like Chaetoceros, in the salty lakes in North America we get Chaetoceros, and of course we practically only see them by their spores. But did you see any of those in the Lut diatoms that you worked with?
I'm not sure, but maybe yes, there exists some, because I have not identified these spores. But yes, I think there may be some existing there. Sure, there should be some, but I don't know the species.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if that the Hanchias and the Rhopalodia and things like that, which are and sometimes pretty commonly lay down internal valves, if they might be doing that as some sort of strategy to make it to the next year. So,
What about the centric diatoms?
well, we have I think in terms of resting spores in the centrics, right, like Chaetoceros, but I don't think you've seen Chaetoceros in any of these systems yet, have you? I don't think so. If I remember.
Not Chaetoceros, but I have some centric forms that I'm not sure if they are spores or they are diatoms. I have not put them.
Oh, interesting. All right, we gotta look at those.
I hope so. Yes.
All right, well, there's one more question, but it's actually for Sarah and Anna. Oh, no, another question just popped in. But Sarah, Anna wanted to know if anybody collected in Death Valley during the floods, if you're still listening. Layla says, any sources in the Lut Desert? Oh, well, I think, Layla, your question might be answered in the publication that Sarah linked, if I understand it correctly, as far as the hydrogeochemistry and the dynamics of the shallow aquifer. So maybe check that out. Oh, and Somayyeh, can you go back to the slide that has the I can't even pronounce it. The I'm gonna fumble it now. Can you go back to your images of your diatoms?
Come on, Proskinia,
Yes.
David.
Proskinia. Yeah, sorry.
Proskinia.
Thanks.
Okay. Proskinia. Yes. Yes. There we go.
And I would actually here in just another few seconds, I'd like to look at your Lutiphila, the light micrographs of the Lutiphila again. It almost looks like there was a bit of a pronounced axil area, like the stria didn't come all the way onto the center of the valve face. Great. And Somayyeh, would you share the slide with the Lutiphila now with the LM?
Lutiphila, yeah. Which one?
The light micrographs of the Lutiphila.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
Broad axial area. Yeah.
Cool. It's great to see. I look forward to seeing that publication, getting a copy of it into my hard drive. Oh, and Anna wants to know where you submitted the publication to, which journal?
Phytotaxa.
Okay. we'll be on the lookout. Okay, I think we can wrap things up here. Somayyeh, thanks again very much for coming to talk to us today and share your work with us on the Lut Desert. It's really cool again to think about when we started our diatom journey together, and it's great to see where you've gone and what you've worked on. Oh, there's a suggestion from Layla that your Rhopalodia might be Rhopalodia musculus variety constricta.
Oh, that's great. I will see her comments and make this comparison.
Sure, yeah, I'll copy that over and email it just in case it gets lost in the chat.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you, everyone, for attending today, and we'll see you in 2024, as crazy as that sounds. Mark, are you going to throw in something there?
No, I'm just going to wave again.
Okay.